The start of another playthrough. I'm sure everyone can remember what it was like getting into the Dark World for the first time, Asgore's flower shop, seeing Asgore in the Dark World, and then being introduced to the greatest character you've ever met. What, got a trouble seeing a handsome guy? Looks like we do. Guess I'll spare you the introductions. So yeah, this is placeholder text put into the game if there's some issue running Flowery's anime introduction cutscene. I was able to get this to show up simply by changing the file to one that does not work. So if I tried to watch it here, basically the whole screen would be black and nothing would work. My only option here is to skip the intro. But this is what you have to do to find the most out of place, hard to see dialogue in this chapter. And I love doing that. And more than just seeing what happens when the cutscene can't play, I learned a lot about the cutscene doing research for this video. For example, when you actually watch the cutscene in this game, you are watching a combination of an audio file and a video file. The audio is not in the video file, so you can keep the video file the same and modify the audio to get something like this. Bzzz, honk, bzzz, step, 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 splash, step. Sorry to keep you waiting. Thank you. You're all too kind. I know I like making these videos on this game, but maybe I should drop this and become a full-time Foley creator. That's where my true passion is. But yeah, in case you're interested yourself, all my dear viewers, just find those files in your own computer, and you can make Flowery's cutscene anything you want. You can give it whatever audio you want, or you can just remove the video file and replace it with the intro to Hotel Mario. The sky's the limit. And some of the best secrets of this game can be found just by going right beyond the surface of your computer. But most of the secrets in this video won't be like that. I just wanted to show this off at the beginning because I love being able to modify stuff like this. And before we get into all the other secrets, if you learn anything new from this video, then you are forced to leave a like. However, if you know everything I have to share with you today, you can leave a dislike guilt-free. Now, let's move on to some of the more wacky world of secrets that Mr. Fox has to share with all of us. In the very next room, we get introduced to some of the wildest NPCs Deltarune has ever seen, the Floridans. And not only are they kind of freaky individuals, but I think they also might be slightly delusional. To begin with, you have to spare one of the Floridans in a battle and leave the battle with only one left. And by the way, you can flatten them if you use your own action. People don't notice this usually. But once there's one Floridan left, convince them, and you'll get this interaction. We don't want to fight you, Floridan. If you come to our side, we can all be friends. Floridan agreed. It's going to beat up everyone on its side. Floridan, you see you are the only one on your side currently. It appears no one thought about this act with Rousey being used when there was only one Floridan in battle. Maybe this Floridan just didn't realize his partner left. And even that justification isn't quite good enough, because you can get this exact same thing to happen with the singular Floridan you fight in front of the locked door. Most people see this new act to show love and do it immediately, but you can treat this fight just like any other fight in the game, which means you can also try to convince this Floridan. Rousey will say the same thing. We can all be friends, and then Floridan will proceed to fight its shadow demons, I guess, going on in its head. Yeah, this isn't even like a mistake in my mind, because this is 100% accurate to these guys. They are already freaky enough. I wouldn't be surprised if some of them had some demons in their head that they're trying to fight. Well, now that we've escaped from those insane individuals, I wanted to show you what happens in some of these early areas if you have the voice clips off. Because normally most people don't. Susie will still say those voice clips are so funny, but Flowery will reply saying, yeah they are, but I better pause using them again, solely because of our options. Wouldn't be polite using those around someone who turned them off. So this implies that Flowery was using his voice clips when talking with Susie before. And Susie's confused, of course. Wait, I'm gonna go get another drink. Explain that later? Yeah, for sure. So an entirely different interaction happens here. And even though Rousey says that same thing about voice clips, he also says, why were you doing them after Chris turned them off? Shouldn't she get to decide if she wants to hear them? If anything, this cutscene with no voice clips on is way more in-depth and complicated than the normal one. Flowery is fighting against Rousey and pushing back against his opinions that only the actual controls of the game should matter. Way harder than any other cutscene at this point did. And Rousey ends up saying Chris can just decide for themselves in the config menu. And even though it's never brought up, by the way, you can still turn Rousey's off here. And by exiting out, you get this same interaction where Flowery basically says, you know, rules are just a suggestion, and then does not turn his voice clips off. You get another little unique interaction here with Susie after the fact, where she says, Chris, hey, Flowery's voice thing doesn't work anymore. And we get the return of the amazing Rousey sprite I found in the other video, but the rest of this cutscene is pretty much the same. The last thing I wanted to point out here is Spikery, who normally has a voice, but when he doesn't, Rousey says, at least it doesn't talk. Oh, Rousey, you sweet summer child. No, we are going to make Spikery talk, because we've got to showcase all the dialogue. And this Distingus. What is he even saying on that one? I don't know. But yeah, I am experimenting here with turning voice clips off, but I certainly haven't showcased every scenario. You should experiment too, let me know what you find. Aqua has one of the most mechanically interesting fights in all of Deltarune, which makes sense given what a little chaos gremlin she is. She never wants things to be too boring, so you can win by making things interesting, doing 5 unique acts. Even the basic action of checking her out gives her some mercy, because she finds it interesting, and she checks you in return. And the thing is, most people at this point would choose a different act, but if you don't want to be like most people, you can think, how about we just do the exact same thing? Let's check Aqua again. She will not be amused by this. Checking, looking again and again, just like my friend, boring. Maybe 3rd time's the charm. You analyze the enemy. What a dull game, she says. Wouldn't you rather play with something sharp? And if you spam the exact same act 4 times in a row, Aqua will basically give up and say humans are actually a little boring, and she'll go right to her Omega knife attack. So, in case you don't actually want to think about this fight in repeat playthroughs, just spam the same action over and over and over and over again, and Aqua will get bored. So, you don't have to win through mercy, you can just win by being the most boring individual Aqua has ever met. Meeting Pink in her shop for the first time is already a pretty remarkable encounter. It's extremely memorable, and one of the more interesting things about it is the dialogue about human ears with her. The first couple of lines aren't that interesting, but this last line, yes, you're nodding, obviously you agree, obviously. This is specifically addressing Chris, and I know this because if you leave the shop and come back and continue to ask her about human ears, she will give different dialogue options depending on which character she is addressing. For example, this second time she says, especially you, purple face, how do you even hear? Which, fair enough, I mean, if you've ever looked at any of Susie's sprites, the girl just doesn't have ears, it just doesn't make sense. And the last line that Pink can have says, not like you, long ears, those seem like a fire hazard. And this seems pretty blatantly about Rousey. And because this line is about Rousey and the last line is about Susie, we can infer that Chris was nodding their head over and over again about the animal ears. And this is such a weird mechanic, because if you continue to ask this question while you're in the shop, you will get the exact same answers. But the second you leave the shop and come right back in, it will be randomized again. This time, it gave us Susie's option. I think this is the only dialogue that works this way, with randomized options, just based on nothing. It's interesting, I just kind of question why it was added at all. One of my favorite interactions between enemies happens when you have recruited both she and Kaka here, partially because I love the way she talks. Like, look at this crembulous dog. What is the word crembulous, huh? And also, I guess I'll use my special attack, falling in love. But I'm sure most people have seen this interaction between she and Kaka before, because it's really hard to recruit she and not have recruited Kaka. I wanted to see if there was a way to get she here alone without being a murderous monster towards Kaka. And that's easier said than done, because in this room, which you have to go through, it is fully impossible to get through it the first time without facing a Kaka. They are just starving for your attention. So how do you get past an enemy that gets recruited when you recruit 2 of them without killing them? Well, it turns out the best way to be kind in this case and not kill them if you don't want them recruited is to shoo them away. I know it's heartbreaking, but this is the only way to get out of this battle without using aggression and without recruiting the Kakas. For my purpose, at the very least, I am getting this dialogue in a way that doesn't require me to murder these sweet innocent creatures, just their hearts. And with she recruited and the Kakas not, we are privy to some extremely rare dialogue. Boss, thanks you, I was able to relocate here. Now I can do big uppercuts at the dinner table all day long. Well, show me, friend. I know you are very, very powerful. Yeah! But quietly to not bother the other customers. You know, is Toby detail-oriented enough to change this line if there are no other customers? Huh, would you look at that? Magically, our other recruits disappeared. But sadly, the dialogue doesn't change. To be fair, us 3 are customers, so maybe she is just trying to be respectful for us. What a great guy. Although I am sorry I had to take your cremulous dog away. It hurt me greatly to do so. At the beginning of the right side of Flower Castle, Seth and Aqua will appear to stop you from progressing. Or try to stop you, at least. They've never really succeeded in any of my playthroughs. And in this beginning section, with the knives and the doors, Seth will comment on your performance after you get past it. And if you do very, very poorly, like I'm doing right now, I honestly don't know anyone who does this poorly, but even if you get hit once by any of these knives, Seth will make fun of you, saying, heh, how do you like that? And to be honest, if you get hit this many times by these knives, you probably deserve a little bit of mocking. You'll get a different reaction from Seth if you manage to use the doors to avoid all damage. And this isn't really that uncommon either. I think this whole section isn't crazily difficult, and there's a decent amount of people who were able to get through it without taking any hits, just by utilizing the doors. And Seth says, darn it, they used the doors. Well, yeah. It's almost like you designed the bullet patterns in such a way that they could be dodged by using the doors, which I don't know why you would do that. I don't really know why any enemies design bullet patterns in such a way that they can be dodged. Where's the logic, huh? The truly fascinating way to do this section is by not using the doors and still managing to not get hit. That's right, you can go past all of these knives by just running past them the moment they go all the way to the left, and you can avoid all damage. You can ignore the door mechanic altogether and still perfect this puzzle. And more fascinating than that is that Toby knew this was possible, because he gave lines to Seth if you do that, saying, you didn't even use the doors? That's right, Seth. This is true gaming skills, just like Birdly would love. And this is what you should be studying if you want to be loved by Birdly as well. I noticed recently that when we meet Orange for the first time, we are blocked by a screen that only gets opened by hitting Orange's fist into it. What happens if we don't do that? Well, that's easier said than done. The fists don't break the screen on their own. It only happens when they get propelled by your sword. But the problem is that your sword not only knocks them off of every wall, but off of each other, so that they almost always bounce into the screen door. And I'm looking to softlock myself here, okay? I don't want to do this correctly. I want to do this the most wrong way possible. And given what we know about the weird route, it may not surprise you to learn that the wrong way is very possible. You can just fail. You can fail to break open your path forward entirely. You can do this so wrong, which means Orange's statement here will finally be correct. You just did it wrong. That's right, Orange. I did it wrong, and I've never been happier for doing so, because now I'm soft-locked here. Oh. Well, they just give you a fist in case you didn't break the wall. Well, it's an interesting fact that I've absolutely never encountered before, but it does make me sad to see devs prevent soft locks. I want to break my game forever. Why are you trying to keep your game unbroken, Mr. Fox? Some of the more understated character moments, and one of my favorite parts of this entire chapter, happens in this giant platforming room in the final part of Deltarune Chapter 5. Now, most people's experience with this room will be trying to beat it a couple times, failing, and then watching Susie and Rao say, act independently to help you win. And that's really cool, and I appreciate it, showing Rousey and Susie's agency, but there's a lot of alternate paths that this room can take. Because, to begin with, you can just beat the room without having Rousey or Susie active at all. And doing so almost breaks the message that this room would be sending otherwise, because it shows you don't need to rely on Susie and Rousey. You can just continue to work independently and be perfectly fine. And you get a slightly different response by being the room this way, with Rousey praising Chris's job, again showing that Chris is fully capable of leading the team all on their own, and Susie saying nothing's tough for us, right? So Susie still sees the team working together as a whole. And then you get this exact same cutscene where Rousey saves Susie. So at the very least, this is mandatory, and it does give agency back to Rousey as well. But what happens if you're really, really bad at solving this room? Once you get to the point where Susie and Rousey take over control, you can try to beat the room, or if you want more dialogue, you can just throw your attempts away. Susie will be supportive, which is nice and always appreciated, but some of the dialogue I love is Rousey, because he will say, "Do it for Susie, Chris," showing either that he ships Susie and Chris together, or that he just knows that Chris already likes Susie. But you don't really get much more dialogue after this point, just down here. So after a lot of failing, eventually you will open up a path. A secret path that most people have probably never seen. Well, there are 2 hooks for Rousey to go on. For this first hook, Susie will instantly knock him off and splat him the second you put him up there, which I kind of think is a bug, but it's really funny, so I have dubbed this the Rousey abuse room, the room where you come to abuse Rousey. But this left hook is way more important. You are listening to what is going on, and what I hear from this is him saying, "You're lol." Like he is laughing at you for how bad you are at this room, this stupid little Jackenstein. But I don't know if he's actually saying that. What he's meant to do is to stretch Rousey out so that you can take him off in the stretch mode. And now, for this entire room, he will be Long Rousey, which makes this entire platforming section much, much easier. Everything else is the same. You can stand on him for far longer as Long Rousey, but eventually he will give out, as he always did before. But this room existing at all is just funny. It's cool that there is a easy mode to get through this room, but the fact that Toby decided that easy mode had to be delivered through a Jackenstein pumpkin saying "you're lol" at you through voice mixing is just, it's why I love this game. This is why you play a Toby Fox game, everyone. And by failing just before you get to the top, after already failing dozens of times, you get another gem of a line from Rousey. Susie will say, "Be ready to hit the flower, K Chris?" And Rousey will get very embarrassed by Susie telling Chris what to do. Rousey's got some very funny ideas in his head regarding Chris and Susie together, and it's very entertaining to see, especially because you don't really see this at all outside of this room. It's crazy. These lines are fully missable, and they kind of give a different picture into Rousey's view of Susie and Chris, and it's fun to see them here for that reason. That pretty much caps off all the secrets I have to share with you today, my dear viewers. I hope you enjoyed learning about all of them. Did you know all of them? If any of you knew everything I had to share with you today, I am very impressed. Good job, you random viewer, you. And even if you didn't, I hope you enjoyed learning new information. Please like the video and subscribe if you enjoyed. Have a good day, everyone.